I call in from Vancouver, which is on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, and specifically the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam people. We've built the Alinker company while living and working on the unceded territories of all Indigenous nations of Turtle Island. This land matter, and the people who tended to the land for centuries matter. We honor Indigenous people and their values and this land by using our business as a medium to raise awareness, speak our truths, feel the unbearable injustice that was done, create communities based on deep values of respect and generosity, protect the wisdom of elders, hire Indigenous people, build bridges, promote Indigenous entrepreneurs and their businesses, and do our own inner work to understand and acknowledge who we represent, who we choose to be beyond what we represent by our looks, so we can build bridges toward the world by us all, and in community for the next 7 generations. And with that, I would like to welcome everybody and introduce Molly here, who is our moderator. Molly is part of the Alinker team, as you might well know. And we have, of course, Nicolette Richer here, our special guest, who is the person who is leading the Eat Real to Heal course that we're starting next week. I sent around the newsletter with the description of the course and everything that relates to the course and introduction of Nicolette. And it also had a podcast with Nicolette and I. Who has seen, by show of hands, who has seen or listened to the podcast? There we go, fantastic, thank you. And so if you have questions, things that you want to bring up, questions about the course, questions to Nicolette, this is not an Alinker Zoom call. This is very specifically on the Eat Real to Heal program. And so Nicolette, welcome. And I'm so happy that we're doing this. And I'm so happy that we've started this initiative together, because I'm super enthusiastic about what it means to really go into the conversation about what is healthy food. And is food medicine? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I can't wait to dive into that. I just also want to start with a land acknowledgement that I get to work and play in this beautiful place of the Squamish and Lillooet peoples. I live close to Mount Currie, the Mount Currie Band, and in Pemberton, British Columbia. And so it's just such a beautiful part of the world to be. And I'm just so appreciative of these beautiful lands that I get to be on. And food, yes, really great question. Is food medicine? And the answer is yes. And we're going to be getting into the specifics of that because at the end of the day, we all know that millions of people have lived on lands all over the entire world free of chronic health issues that we see now. So diabetes and heart disease and mental health conditions, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, autoimmune disorders, which are rampant now. And yes, food is medicine. And the reason I know that is because I've been doing this work for over 15 years, working with physicians all over the world, teaching them how to teach their patients, also teaching my own clients how to work with someone who has a diagnosed medical condition. And then we use food to reverse those conditions. And when I say reverse, just to get really clear on what that means, it means that it doesn't matter how long you've had your condition, diabetes, heart disease, and doesn't matter how many medications you are on. Within a few weeks to a few months, we can have you off all of your medications for the majority of the chronic lifestyle conditions. But that's only if you're willing to start consuming real foods. So I'll leave it at that and go back to B, as I'm sure that she's got lots of questions from that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, maybe you can start with a few numbers at the moment, because if we talk about autoimmune diseases, depression, all those things that so many people are dealing with now. When I was young, it rarely happened that you heard about a disease or something, and it really seemed to have progressed into what I always call a systemic problem, because we have a food industry that started pumping up fast food and processed food and adding all sorts of stuff to food. And what I always a little bit black and white call like the food industry feeds the pharma industry, and people are not central anymore. So how do you in your mindset, because we are conditioned in a system where the food industry tells us this is healthy food, this is diet food, this is great. Like, how do you get from being conditioned in a food system that makes us sick to understanding what real food is, and then using food as medicine, but actually having the people central? And can you maybe give a little bit of an overview of how many people are actually having at least one chronic degenerative illness at the moment, and start there?
Yeah. So right now, the numbers are rampant. We just came out of a COVID pandemic, but what nobody was talking about until COVID hit was this chronic disease epidemic that is upon us. It is literally an epidemic. 1 in 2 people are dying from heart disease, and these are preventable, reversible heart conditions. And so this includes stroke and high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And I can tell you, it can take 2 weeks to bring your blood pressure down to normal. It can take a month to have your cholesterol numbers come right down to normal. It can take a week to reduce your insulin by 50%. Diabetes is an autoimmune disorder. So 1 in 2 people dying from heart disease. There's more people every year that die from heart disease than collectively all the humans that ever died in all the wars. So that is an astounding number, okay? And how is this happening? And it's because of that direct relationship between the food we eat and the pharmaceutical industry, the drugs that we're given that don't reverse the condition. Those drugs don't reverse the condition. They make you believe that you are managing your illness because, okay, great, the drugs bring down your blood pressure or your cholesterol, but it's doing nothing to heal your body at all. So your disease will just continue to get worse. You need more medications. Diabetes, we have 1 in 4 people now that are being diagnosed with diabetes. 1 in 2 people in Canada, North America, Australia, any developed country, 1 in 2 people are getting diagnosed with cancer, with autoimmune disorders. 20 years ago, we did not see the rates of autoimmune disorders. Now we're seeing the rates being almost 1 in 1, or if they say it's going to be 1 in 1 people by 2030. So we're seeing 1 in 2 as well. And all of these conditions are directly related to our gut. And what I mean by that is you have this beautiful microbiome, this plethora of bacteria. And in fact, you're mostly made up of bacteria. A lot of people don't know that, but you have 40 quadrillion bacteria inside your body and outside your body, 40 quadrillion, but you only have 30 trillion human cells, which is crazy. So you're actually more bacteria, but that bacteria is what makes you really healthy. It keeps your body able to fight bad bacteria. It manages your hormones. It manages your insulin. It manages literally every aspect of your body. And so we have these diseases that have been growing because of the amount of processed food that doesn't contain the fiber, because of the amount of toxins in our environment that come in through the way of food. And all of this can be stopped and arrested, this pandemic or epidemic that's upon us.
So how do you determine what is real food?
Yeah. Okay. Really good question. So it's the number one question I get asked everywhere is, what is real food? Like, what are you talking about? Everyone tells me, like every client I work with says, but I eat really well. Like I'm super healthy. And I can tell you that in all of my years of working, and I have worked with thousands upon thousands of people, nobody ever actually is eating really healthy. And the only way they know is once they start our program and then they look back at what they're eating and they go, oh my gosh, I wasn't eating healthy. So here, I'm going to take you through 3 different food groups. one food group is the real food group, and that's my definition of real food. Then you have a processed food group, and then you have an ultra processed food group. So does everyone here know what garbanzo beans are? Chickpeas? Okay, good. That's awesome. So chickpeas, when you see them in there, the whole bean that you have to cook on the stove, and it's good to soak them overnight for 8 hours and then cook them the next day for about an hour on the stove. So that is a whole food. When you put that food in your mouth and eat it with your teeth and your saliva, and you chew it and you process it, that's real food. But you could also go to the store and you can get chickpea flour or chickpea bread or chickpea chips or chickpea crackers or hummus that's in the grocery store. So the hummus, right, is made out of chickpeas and tahini, but most companies add so much salt, they add so much refined oil, they add so much preservatives, even sugar, refined. And we're not talking about healthy sugar, like the kind that comes from your fruits and vegetables and grains. We're talking about the processed white sugar that they're adding in. So this is a processed food, but it's not highly processed, right? Like it probably has 6 ingredients in there. Now we go to the grocery store line, which is where all the chips are, and you go and grab a bag of chips that are, say, chickpea like tacos or chickpea chips or chickpea crackers. This is super ultra processed. This is the kind of stuff that can live on the shelf for years. If it has a shelf life of more than a couple days, it's not real food. Okay, not real food. So let's maybe make it a week. You want to be eating potatoes versus potato chips. You want to be eating an apple versus a fruit roll up. You want to be eating, even if you make bread. So bread is a beautiful food, but nobody makes bread anymore. There's only 2 companies that I know of that make bread that's true, real food. And that's where you would take the red wheat kernels or the wheat kernels or the oats, and it actually goes through a food mill, so a stone grinder, and then it produces a flour. And then the baker would take that and not really use it's just basically water, a pinch of salt, sometimes not even any yeast, and water, and then they'd mix that flour together, and then they'd make a bread and bake it. This is a whole food. But most of the bread that's on the shelves, if it's squishy and it's really fun to eat because it kind of melts in your mouth, that's not real food. I usually call it crack cocaine. And what I mean is that it's all the nutrients have been taken out of the wheat kernels, all the germ, all the bran, and all you're left with is these really refined sugars that kind of light your brain up as though you just did cocaine. And I'm not joking about this. They've done many studies on this. So that's the difference between real food and what we think is healthy food, which most people are often duped by the marketing, which will say it's organic and whole wheat and a whole food. And it contains, anything you see where they've added supplements on the package and it has a label is not real food.
So accessibility to real food, because many people, there's this myth that healthy food is more expensive.
Yeah.
And there's this myth and if I go to the supermarket here that has a lot of organic products, so it's a good supermarket, but there's maybe 3% of the stuff that's on the shelves there that I can actually eat because I eat real food. Not all the time, but I try to mostly. So say a little bit more about price and accessibility to healthy food if you have only a 9/11 close to you, for example, because some people live in what they call food deserts.
Totally.
And I know food desert is not the right word because they're very often racial zones. And for everybody here, please put up your hand if you have a question or put it in the chat. Molly keeps track of it and engage in a conversation if you want, but say a little bit more about that. Accessibility to real food and affordability.
Those are 2 really, really, really important topics when we're talking about food, because if you were to purchase, if you're purchasing all the olive oils and some people might be purchasing Himalayan sea salt because they heard that that was really important, or maybe you're just buying table salt and you're buying, lots of steak or meat or cheese or dairy. Like all of those foods are very, very expensive. And those are the foods that are contributing to 98% of the chronic illnesses out there. So when you switch to real food, so this would mean, a bag of potatoes, a bag of carrots, maybe a handful of collard greens or any dark leafy green vegetables, apples occasionally. Eating apples is really wonderful, but eat them when they're in season. If you're purchasing oranges and squash and turnips, these foods are so cheap. Anything that doesn't have a label on it is actually really cheap because you're not paying for the box or the bag that has the printing and the stickers and the marketing. This is what makes food so expensive. But when you just shop in the perimeter of the grocery store and you're predominantly eating produce and whole grains, it's really, really cheap. Rice, very cheap. Quinoa, a little bit more expensive, okay, but also still inexpensive compared to, all of the, if you're thinking you need to eat meat 3 times a day or even 3 times a week or even 3 times a month, like this is a lot of meat product. And we can talk about meat versus vegetable and grain ratio because that's an important thing. So for example, for breakfast, people love eggs and bacon and whatever other things that they're eating, but the healthiest food to eat in the morning is oatmeal. And you can buy a 30-pound bag of oatmeal for about $33. Like it's like $1 a pound, and that'll feed you as an individual for months and months and months. And then of course, if you want to add, some extra special superfoods, that's when it gets expensive. But you don't need to be putting goji berries. Like those are like $8 a bag. That's too expensive. You don't even need to be putting hemp seeds in there. You can literally be putting things like bananas. Some dates get a little bit more costly. I get that. But if you don't, like if that's too much, you can add raisins or grapes or berries when they're in season that you get from the farmer's market. And that helps to bring down the price. So it's a very affordable food. Let's say you're like, well, okay, I'm not even affording steaks and all of those things. Like that's out of my food budget. You can be eating potatoes. You can just strictly eat potatoes and yams. That's all you eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, some of the cheapest food on the planet, and you will reverse your chronic illness. And you'll get all the protein you need, all the fats you need, all the salts you need, all the sugars you need. Like people don't realize that all of this beautiful produce has all the micro and macronutrients that you need. And you're not getting all those micronutrients and anything that has a label on it. You're not getting that. And so it's very affordable to eat this way. And what I usually say is, think about the foods that your ancestors ate 450 years ago. So pre-colonization. Go back to what doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. If you're Polish, if you're from Indonesia, if you are, from Czech or Slovakia, it doesn't matter where you're from. Think about the foods that your peasant family ate, not the wealthy, because the wealthy were eating lots of meat, okay, and lots of alcohol. You don't want to eat that. But if you eat like the peasants ate, they were free of all of these chronic illnesses and they ate the cheapest food. Mm-hmm. So that's affordability. Now, accessibility is a whole nother story because yes, if you want to have like the diversity that's available at Whole Foods, that's going to be more challenging in a remote and rural community where you might be paying $10 for a banana. So I get that. But what's really nice is that community members can gather, and I teach my clients how to do this in remote and rural communities. And you can work with any business in any community and say, hey, you have a business number, which means you can get a wholesale account, which means we can band together as a community and you can do a food delivery once a week so that collectively you're paying for the delivery cost. And on that truck, like that truck bed, there's going to be bags of oatmeal, bags of red wheat kernels, bags of rice, bags of, boxes of potatoes and squash and all of that. So you can still access that. It is possible. It takes a little bit more coordination. Now, to go beyond that, there's farmers everywhere. And you can actually find anybody who owns land. And in the summer months, you can work with them to actually grow the food. It's actually easier than you think. Like you can throw like seeds over your shoulder. And as long as there's some soil that is fertile, which it's not hard, it only takes one growing season to actually turn soil that is hard and lumpy and it's not moist and it doesn't grow anything. One growing season, you can have the most fertile soil. So you do have to go, you have to work a little bit harder, but there's so many people in remote and rural communities that love touching the soil. They love growing food. You need to just collaborate with them. And we had to do that for our restaurant because we have several plant-based whole food restaurants. And when we went to the local farmers, they were like, we don't grow that much food for restaurants. And we said, okay, if you promise to plant extra rows of romaine, and they were like, well, how many extra? And we were like, hundreds extra. They had to multiply their farm 4 times just to be able to grow enough produce. And guess what? They would never have done it if they weren't asked, if there wasn't the demand. So you create the demand for that. Mm-hmm. So that's how you get around doing that. So, but in the meantime, again, stick to what's just like what you could get that's fresh and in the grocery store. And even in remote and rural communities, you can always get potatoes, which is a wonderful thing. You can always get oatmeal. You can always usually find some form of carrots or squashes, because those things are just, people toss them out because they take over gardens, right? They're like weeds, but you kind of want to eat those weeds. Those are the healthy food.
Leah, you have a question.
Yes, I do. Hi, everybody, and thank you for this beautiful call. First of all, I'm very grateful. 2 questions. If I buy oatmeal in the store, for example, at the grocery store, and it's in the regular oatmeal box, is that considered processed food, or is that considered a real food?
Okay, so really great question, because I know I said oatmeal. So when you go to the grocery store, you want to avoid the oatmeal that comes in the box and that has a major brand name like Quaker Oats. So Quaker Oats are off the table, not Quaker Oats. Those are heavily processed. Anything that's quick oats, also off the table. You want the thick rolled oats. So what happens is in the grocery store, anything that's on your eye line is not good food. If it's right here, then it's not good food. So what you want to do is look to the bottom of the shelf or the very top of the shelf, because that's where the good healthy food is. And that's often where you'll find oatmeal in a paper bag or a plastic bag. And it's usually sold in like 3 pounds at the grocery store. So just scan along the bottom of the aisles. And sometimes it's in the bulk section. So you want the thick rolled oats or the steel cut oats, because that means everything's been left in there. And if it can cook in 30 seconds in the microwave or with just pouring hot water on it, that's the one that all the important nutrients have been taken out. And that applies to anything that is like rice. If rice cooks in 5 minutes, that's not a real food. So you want the rice that comes in like the Japanese style or the Chinese style bags or a paper bag. Like often these are going to be more wholesome products for you than anything that comes in a box. And anything that has really smart marketing versus just a sticker that says oats and it has like the company name in really tiny letters, that is a company that's not spending $1 on marketing. So your food's going to be much cheaper. The minute it's got photography and iconic figures on there, not good food.
Okay. As a follow-up to that, if you have something, chronic illness that's takes a lot of energy, right? Like chronic illness takes a lot of energy to maintain. And the one issue I was curious about I really would like to do this, but when I tried to eat raw foods, the biggest issue I come across is enough energy to break through things like ataxia and stuff like that, like enough calories. And so.
Yes. So I love that question. That's a really smart question. So with our program that we have, we walk you through how to do all the cooking and how to eat the food. We don't do raw food is only for people who have strong enough digestions. Most people who have chronic illness should be eating cooked food. So what we like to do is, how many people here have babies or children? Anybody had children before? Okay, a few people,
So
or nieces or nephews. So do you remember when they started eating food when they were 6 months old? Right? The food is very well cooked and it's very soft. So when we use heat from the stove to cook our food, it actually makes it that we can repair our digestion. And in a few short weeks, your energy goes up like this. And also it's because we're feeding insoluble and soluble plant-based fibers to your gut, which helps to grow the healthy bacteria, which helps to create energy and absorb more nutrients, because you actually don't feed yourself first, you feed your bacteria. Then your bacteria digests the food, spits out the molecules that are all broken down, then your body gets to absorb them. So you're actually feeding your bacteria. So bacteria loved really well-cooked food. Now, it's nice to have raw foods, for example, for the enzymes and for all of that. But what's way more important than that is the micronutrients, the macronutrients that you get from the well-cooked food. And you can still eat, like, you know, for some of my clients who have really bad digestion, we would never even let them eat a whole raw apple. We would make applesauce for them, right? Or if their digestion is okay, we'd say chew the apple a lot so that you get your salivary glands activated and talking to your gut to say, by the way, down there, I've got food coming down, get ready for me. So this is what heals the body and creates more energy. The other part of our program that we teach you is that the cooking for this is so easy. We're not like, you know, making a Grey Poupon sauce or whatever it is, where it takes 5 stages and you have to put something in the freezer, let it, you know, cool, and then 5 days later, roll it out. There's none of that happening here. What we teach you how to do is buy your groceries, come home, throw everything in the sink and wash it all at once, put it in the dish tray, let it drip dry, and then chop, 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 chop. And you don't even have to chop it up big. It's literally like chop things in quarters or even halves. And then we get it in the stove and the oven. And then you just turn on the stove and the oven and you let it cook for an hour. You walk away, go do some breath work, have a nap, you know, call a loved one, all of the things that make you feel good, sit out in the sun. Then you come back and all your food is cooked. So you can actually do all your cooking one time for like 2 or 3 days. For somebody who has cancer, my clients who have cancer, we get them cooking every day because we really need the nutrient value to be at its highest. But for everybody else, you can cook your food for up to 3 days. And so that means you're making 6 meals in an hour. 6 meals in an hour. So it's so simple. And we just get 4 elements on the stove going at once. You get 2 trays going in the oven. And so if you're, you know, if you're by yourself and you're only cooking for yourself, that's okay. We'll just use smaller pots and smaller casserole dishes. That's okay. But there's nothing like, there's no multi-layered cooking. So it's actually very easy. So you're conserving energy being in your kitchen, which now you can utilize that energy and actually put it towards cellular regeneration, nutrification, absorption, detoxification. And it's why my clients heal so fast. So what I want to do is I want to show you, I'm just going to share my screen here and just let me know if you can see this picture.
yes, we can.
Okay. Everybody can see that? Okay, good. So this is an example of a client that his mental health was very poor. He was actually suicidal at this point because he had lived with psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disorder, throughout his entire body for his whole life. And so had his dad, his brother, and his sister. So they thought it was genetic. And a lot of people are told that, you know what, this is just your lot in life. That's too bad for you. Take these medications. None of the medications worked. This took 6 weeks for him to get full reprieve release from his psoriasis. And that was many years ago and it hasn't come back. So and then this is head to toe psoriasis. So this is the part where I share this because it's an example of what's happening inside your body as well. This is chronic inflammation in your body. And so this is, he presents it on his skin. Somebody else might present with diabetes because it's that chronic inflammation that stops insulin from getting across the cell walls and into your tissues. So this is tissue damage syndrome, which is the underlying factor for all chronic illnesses. So once we heal the body with food, then the inflammation goes away, and all of that metabolic energy that was being wasted trying to fight the illness starts going in, and that metabolic energy goes in to repair the body, and it happens fast, so fast.
Nicolette, Courtney has a question. Courtney, do you want to ask the question yourself, or do you want me to read it?
Sure, I can ask it. Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for doing this. So I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a genetic condition. And I was just wondering, how much have you seen people with those genetic conditions improve their symptoms?
Yeah. So here's the thing about genetic conditions is that, and I have had clients with EDS as well. And so what happens is, you have genes in your body that are supposed to be either on or off. And depending on the gene, it will either fight cancer, make your skin really stretchy, too stretchy in all your joints, so you get lots of dislocations. It will cause lots of other conditions, okay? Your kidneys to either function or not function. So your genes are navigated. They are either turned on or off by the environment that your gene lives in. So your cellular environment, not only the internal cellular environment, but the external cellular environment, okay? You have two environments in your body, in the cells, and then all the fluid outside the cells. So what turns these genes on or off are nutrients. Okay, so it could be you lack vitamin D, or you lack vitamin C, or you're not producing, or you need vitamin B12, which everybody needs. So every single nutrient can be tied to a nutrient deficiency, which is tied to a disease. Now, when it's genetic, that means your genes are not playing a role in supporting particular functions in the body. Okay, so for example, I have the gene for Alzheimer's. I had a genetic test done. I love to know what's happening with my genes. And so I have the gene for Alzheimer's. So and this is scientific evidence shows, if I consume a diet that causes a lot of inflammation, I'm going to trigger my Alzheimer's genes much earlier. Or if I live a lifestyle that is clean and healthy, and I get sleep, and I'm eating clean, real foods where there's not a lot of inflammation and my body is hypernutrified, I will die from natural causes before I ever trigger the Alzheimer's genes. And this is evidence-based medicine coming from the neuroscience community, like as of right now and for the last 10 years. So we can turn Alzheimer's on and off. So let's say I had a lot of stress going on in my life. I started drinking, eating lots of high fatty foods, high salty foods, lots of refined products. I can trigger Alzheimer's and turn it on, but I can also turn it off if I just went back to a healthy lifestyle. So with EDS, what happens is my clients who have EDS, they were getting dislocations like left, right, and center. They so much brain fog, like all of the gut health issues that go along with it as well. And then all of a sudden, all of those symptoms started to go away. Genetically, they still have EDS, but now what we've done is we've hyper treated the body so that the gene's not able to express itself. Now, if they were to go back, they're not as lucky as other people, I would say, in that, you know, they can go eat McDonald's and do that. Like if they go back to an unhealthy lifestyle, then these symptoms are going to really trigger, versus for somebody else, it might be something that's easy to manage, like diabetes, for example. Like much easier to live with well, not really easy to live with diabetes because it claims people's lives, but do you know what I mean? Like it's not going to be as profound. So there's just extra care that just needs to go to happen when it's a genetic disorder. Now, when Parkinson's, for example, once Parkinson's is triggered, we can't reverse like necrotic tissue damage. So this is when your cells actually die as a result of the disease. That's really hard to reverse that. So we don't get to reverse the damage, but we can stop the progression of the illness, which is also really important to know.
And with brain activation, you can activate your brain to find neural pathways around the damage.
Yeah. And then exactly. And we know that something can be damaged, and then you can go in, and if you work with a really strong group of physiotherapists that and neuroscientists, they can give you activities to exactly do just that, completely rewire the brain around any damaged area, for sure. Yeah. The brain is miraculous at healing.
Alana,
Thank you so
you've got a
much. Thank
question.
you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I have before I tried to eat like a plant-based diet, and it caused me like to become really gassy because I tried to do a lot of, the green leafies.
Yeah.
And so that didn't work well. So what proportion, as someone like myself just starting out, what proportion of the food should be raw, transitioning yourself to the complete plate being raw? Does that make any sense?
Yes. Yeah. I don't love raw diets at all, actually, especially because I live in Canada where it's cold a lot of the time. And so it just takes a lot of energy. If I was in Malawi, where I was born in Africa, like even then, actually, my grandmother, all the villagers in our community, and we're talking about villagers with like no electricity, no water, nothing. Okay. This is where I come from. Like everything is mud huts and grass roofs, like you see in documentaries. That's where I was born. So all the villagers in my community, they look like NBA basketball stars. Like they're just beautiful muscles. Nobody has like excess weight. They're not skinny by any means. Like they're healthy, and nobody has chronic illnesses at all. People die of communicable diseases, not chronic diseases. And so they eat mostly cooked food. Nobody's eating raw food there, except for mangoes when they're in season, avocados when they're in season. But all the food is cooked. And it would be really hard on them if they were to eat just all raw food. So I love cooked food. So for somebody like yourself who's transitioning over, and for everybody here, the amount of gas you're going to produce is really dependent on your bacteria. So until you build up enough of the grain-loving bacteria, lentil-loving bacteria, vegetable and fruit-loving bacteria. And those are the bacteria that actually secrete chemotherapy drugs throughout your body that go in and kill cancer cells. And this is no joke. This is medicine. This is science. Your bacteria secretes the exact same chemotherapy drugs that synthetically biochemists are trying to make to treat cancer. So, and this is the plant-loving bacteria. Now, the meat-loving bacteria doesn't do that. And massive studies, population studies have shown that meat and dairy-loving bacteria, people who have more of that bacteria in their gut have higher rates of colon cancer, intestinal cancers, bladder cancer, kidney cancer, liver cancer. Okay. Whereas people who have high amounts of plant-loving bacteria, like my grandmother and all the villagers in Chiritsulu, they don't get cancer. They don't get colon cancer. It's not even really a thing there. So you want to develop the healthy bacteria. So what happens though, in the first 6 weeks, when you start doing this, you're overriding the meat and bacteria, meat and dairy loving bacteria. And what happens is when they die off and when they're like at war with the good bacteria, there's a lot of gas exchange. So really that gas is not your own gas. It's your bacteria farting. That is actually what it is. Okay. Many little tiny farts inside of you. So it does take time to transition, which is why when you do it with the cooked food, just like a 6-month-old baby does not have a strong bacterial system. So we start to give them, really cooked foods and start to build up the digestion. And it actually takes like a good solid year for a baby before you can start throwing nuts and seeds and raw food at them, right? Most babies are still consuming really cooked, like well-cooked foods, because we have to build that up. So when you do this and you switch, what you'll notice is as long as you have a lot of cooked foods and as you're feeding the healthy bacteria, it will be less gas and bloating. And it usually takes three solid weeks. And as long as you are chewing your food well, you're not diluting your food by drinking lots of water while you're eating, then actually that transition for most of my clients is next to nothing. Like they get, and then what happens is at the 3-week mark, then you get like the die off of the bacteria. And that's when your farts really smell bad, but that only lasts for, again, like another week. And then after that, it's amazing because you don't have BO anymore. You're literally, your poop doesn't stink. Like when I take a poop, I can poop anywhere and I don't have to worry about spraying the room at all. but that's because, but meat and dairy loving bacteria,
Ooh.
man, your farts and your bowel movements are like, woo, very strong.
Okay, thank you.
That is true, Courtney. That is true freedom. We can sleep anywhere, and your shit doesn't stink.
Moran and Rosanna, you try to put up your hand. I see you, Leah. You'll be next, but Moran and Rosanna try to put up their hands for a question. Unmute yourself. You're muted.
Oh, I'm gonna do that. Great.
Yeah, there we go.
No, okay. Hi, everyone. And B, thank you for putting things like this together. Hi, Nicolette. We're vegan, but what I struggle with a lot is I plan what we're going to eat, and I try to buy a lot of leafy greens, and then my schedule gets thrown off, and then I end up with a lot of rotten leafy greens, and it's a struggle to try to buy fresh food, but use it up in time. So if you have any tips on, say, tips and tricks for keeping fresh greens fresher longer, any kind of fruits, vegetables that we can just preserve a little longer.
Right. So great question. Okay, so let's differentiate between leafy greens, because there's the leafy greens that I want everybody to know are the romaines and the like different kinds of lettuces that you would make a salad out of, or, you know, chard, for example. But then you have the dark, really leafy greens, which are from the cruciferous vegetable family and the brassica family. So this is like collard greens and maybe cabbage greens, if you're buying those. So there's two categories. One you want to cook, and the other one, it's nice to eat them fresh. Okay. So like the romaine. So are you talking about the romaine lettuce?
Say spring mix, fresh spinach and cabbage and things like that.
Okay, great. So spinaches, kales, collard greens, even chard, you can cook those. So when you start to see those going bad, like inner beet greens, you can cook, mustard greens, you can cook. So any of those in that category, cook those. And what's nice is you'll just put them in a pot with like chopped up onions and tomatoes and some garlic. You just toss a little tiny bit of water on there, put a lid on it, and then turn the stove on to medium. When the pot gets hot, turn it down to low and just walk away for 45 minutes and cook it. And at the end, what you end up with is it's almost like a gomai, right? Like the really well-cooked greens. Now you're going to put in this much of those like greens, and they're going to shrink down to like this much, which is wonderful. So because you're like, normally you couldn't chew through that much greens. So what you're doing is you're amplifying your availability of nutrients by softening everything up. Okay. You're also going to end up with the liquid in the pot. That's really good liquid. Like drink that, please, because that's like a vitamin concoction. Now, what you can do is add vinegar to it, because vinegar is a very good digestive aid. And I love adding vinegar and a bit of flax oil. That's the only oil I use is flax oil, because it's medicine for your body. Now, this will stay in the fridge for like a week. So you just took your greens and made them last a week longer. So this is great. Another thing you can do is just cook them on their own in a little bit of water. So you're like steaming them, but don't let the steam escape from the pot. You want all of that water to stay in the pot. So you got to have a tight fitting lid on there. And then what you can do, I don't like freezing food, but you could do this. So you cook those dark leafy brassica family greens, and then you're going to cook them, and then you can chop them up and put them in ice cube trays and put that in the fridge. So every time you want to add some extra greens and fiber to a meal, like if you're making like a lentil dish or a soup or even a smoothie, like you could add that in there. So it makes it really good. So you just conserve those. So that's two different ways you can do that. Now on the other side, this is challenging because you're not going to cook your romaine lettuces and your butter lettuce and all of that. So what you can do with this is blend it into a smoothie, or like or you can blend it into a juice. You can juice it, which is really good. So do that just as you see like it's going bad, and hopefully you can find juicers on Craigslist. Like people are selling them for like $25. Everybody's got a juicer, everybody's upgrading. So there's always juicers. Now on our program, when we're reversing chronic illnesses with clients, we do have them juicing. They eat 3 meals a day, all the snacks they want, all the most amazing desserts, which I teach you how to make. And then we juice, because this is the only way to get more nutrients in the body by taking out the fiber. And so it's an IV transfusion directly into your bloodstream. And this is how we get more nutrients into you without compromising your digestion, because that would be just too much fiber if you had to chew all of that. So, and then when you juice it, all you have to do is add like an apple to it, and it sweetens it up if you don't like the taste. And apple is very important for reversing chronic disease because there's malic acid and pectin in there. So every ingredient we use has a medical reason behind it. So you can do that, drink the juice, and away you go. I don't like freezing juices. And so if you have a lot of it and you end up with lots of juice, just put it in 8-ounce mason jars. And then what you want to do, it's better to drink it right away. But let's say you can't, then you just want to take it with you and drink it later, and just keep it in the fridge and put it like a tea towel around it so the light doesn't get to it. And so that's another way to save your greens. And what's nice about that is that you're actually, by doing that, you're getting more nutrients into your body. So that's not wasting food at all. It's actually hyper-nutrifying, which is really critical for reversing chronic disease.
That's great tips. If I could ask one more question, Nicolette, what's your take on Instant Pot pressure cooker?
Okay, so in the past, so if you've ever over the past 15 years attended workshops, you'll often hear me say things where I'm like, I don't have the science on it just yet, but my gut is telling me it's not good. I said that about coconut oil, and 10 years later, I was right. I said that about keto diet. 3 years later, I was 100% right. Keto will kill you. And so about the Instapot cooker, I have to look at it because I think it uses atmospheric pressure to cook things really, really fast, which I have read that it can conserve nutrients, but I will know if I taste it. The minute I taste it, I will tell you the difference between the way we cook food, which is so flavorful because all the nutrients are maintained, versus a crock pot cooker versus steaming food where you let all the nutrients escape, or boiling it. So I just need to taste it. So the long answer and the short answer is I don't love it. I wouldn't use it for my clients who are trying to reverse chronic illness.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. I'm always the first to say I could be wrong. I just don't know yet.
Thank you.
Leah, you had another question?
Yes, I just a couple of things were running through my mind. One comment and kind of two questions. The comment was that I used to work at a bakery, and that stuff that comes inside of like ring dings and stuff like that, you could literally build a house with that. Like that, I feel like is the number one cause of heart disease. Like you could put bricks together with that. Yeah. And the comment, I was curious how much of sorry, brain fog. Hello. How much what the meal looks like, what a meal looks like that you put together, because the energy that it takes to expend to cut up vegetables for me, it's almost like I'm exhausted by the time I'm done cutting up the vegetables, and then I eat it, but then I don't get enough caloric intake. So I'm just kind of curious, what is what the meal looks like?
Yeah. So you will, if you make a meal the way I'm about to describe, you will get all the caloric intake that you need, and you won't need any more than that. Okay. And you will reverse your chronic diseases. So, which is nice. And the great thing is you can just keep eating, and you can't overeat on this, because with that much fiber, it sends a signal to your brain. And with that many nutrients, it actually tells your brain, hey, you know what? I'm full. And it always does it around the 550 caloric mark, which is basically a plate of food like I'm going to describe. So it's nice is that if you have weight to lose, you lose it. If you have weight to gain, you gain it. And despite how many calories that you're eating. So the whole caloric thing is a bit of a myth that like we debunk all the time. I've had a client who was 79 pounds when she came to me, 5'6", and in 3 weeks, she was able to, for the first time in a year, she came from a psychiatric ward where they were force feeding her because they thought she was anorexic. She had scleroderma and a host of other chronic illnesses. And she ate our food, which was less calories than what they were feeding her, but they were feeding her like burgers and pasta, which were making her worse. We put her on our food, which was around 550 calories per meal, not like the 1,000 calories that they were trying to give her. And she gained weight for the first time. And she left our center at 105 pounds. And she continued to move up to 120 pounds. And then despite eating the same amount of food, her weight just stabilized at about 122 pounds. But I've had clients who are 50, 60, 100 pounds overweight. They eat the same food and they lose weight, but then they hit a place where they plateau and it's their ideal weight. So it debunks the whole caloric myth and everybody's full and happy. Nobody's dieting. This is not a diet. This is just eating real food. So I understand exactly what you're saying. For some of my clients, they are in wheelchairs when they start with me. One was paralyzed, a nurse who was paralyzed for a year in her bed, couldn't get out of bed. Another client who was in so much chronic pain, crawling from the bedroom to the bathroom. So if you don't have enough energy to be standing in your kitchen, which I get, a lot of my clients are like that, we find you support. Sometimes it's through a church group, and sometimes it's friends and family. And it's really just for the first couple of weeks that you need that. Or in really extreme cases, it might be the first 3 months. So, but usually people have enough energy. They go from zero energy and so much brain fog that they're like, how do I chop a carrot? That's how bad their brain fog is, to all of a sudden, like they're whipping up meals like crazy. So a plate of food looks like this. So if you have a regular size dinner plate, then if you can eat raw food, you'd have a salad that takes up maybe a third to half of the plate, let's say. So not a tiny little salad like this. We don't do salads like that. So if you can eat the fresh vegetables, a beautiful salad. Okay. And then the other third of the plate, and this is like piled as high as you want to make it. So there's no limits on how high you pile the other half of the plate. So think about the other half of the plate. And actually, I'm going to share something with you. So just so you see it. And so the other half of the plate will be like a baked potato or mashed potatoes, but baking potatoes is the easiest because all you got to do is scrub it, don't peel it, stab it with a fork, throw it in the oven. Like so easy. And you can throw 6 potatoes in there. So you have lunch and dinner for 3 days. Really simple. Okay. And then the next thing is on the other section, you're going to have baked vegetables. So again, you could take a cauliflower and chop it in half and throw it in a casserole dish with a tiny bit of water so it doesn't burn. And you only had to make 1 chop. That was it. 1 chop. And then for the other baked vegetables, you might do Brussels sprouts. Now I know Brussels sprouts, you have to clean them and stuff like that. So maybe that's too much work for the first 3 weeks. So let's don't do Brussels sprouts. But then what you do is, let's think of another vegetable. So carrots, you could take like 4 carrots and chop those in half and like chop off the ends, chop those in half and throw them in the oven. Maybe you don't even chop off the ends. Maybe you just don't eat the ends when it comes time to eating them. Super simple. You can take a squash, chop it in half, scoop out the seeds, and throw those upside down in a casserole dish with water and throw that in the oven. So now you have like 3 to 4 different vegetables in the oven. And these are very, very healing foods. And you just turn it on and walk away. You don't even have to baste it. So you can go have a nap because you might be so tired that you had to make 6 chops and that's all the energy you have. Okay. But at least now you have potatoes in the oven and your other vegetables in the oven. Now for the stove, and on another section of the plate, you're going to have something that feels more like a stew. Okay. So, cause it's really well cooked. So these are going to be like a head of collard greens. Okay. Or a head of kale, or maybe it's going to be, it could be a different kind of squash, cauliflower, asparagus, green beans, onions, and tomatoes. And all you do is chop the tomatoes in half, throw them in the pot. Take an onion, chop that in half, take off the skin, throw that in the pot. And then you're going to throw in like all those other vegetables I just said, put a lid on it. And you only start with like 3 to 4 tablespoons of water. And then what you're going to do is bring the pot up to hot and then turn it down immediately to very low. And then when you finish, you end up with a stew. It literally, your vegetables will have sweat that it's filled up with probably this much water in the pot. So now you have a really well-cooked dish from the stovetop, a really well-cooked dish from the oven, and your baked potato and your salad. Salad, I don't even use a knife. I just tear up leaves, throw it on there. Sometimes I just throw like half a red pepper on there. It doesn't have to be complicated. And then the part that takes a little bit more work is that I like to make lots of good dressings, because the dressings are a digestive aid for you. They have lots of digestive enzymes. So this is, again, very simple. Flax oil, a little bit of water, some apple cider vinegar or any kind of vinegar that you like, a whole head of cilantro if you like cilantro, a whole head of parsley if you like parsley. You can throw in a baked potato and some squash, maybe some beets, whatever you want. And you blend that up and you'll get this beautiful dressing, and you just pour that on your plate, and your mouth is going to be watering. Like, your body's just going to be so happy you're going to be eating it. And honestly, you could do this in probably half an hour in your kitchen, and you'll have enough food for 3 days. Okay. So again, it feels like when you're first doing it, it definitely is a little bit more work than taking a TV dinner out of a box and putting it in the microwave. So I do have to admit, it is a little bit more work than that, but you also are prioritizing the reversal of your chronic illness, and you're prioritizing creating energy, because that's what we're doing. Every time you eat this food, you're feeding your mitochondria. Your mitochondria are the powerhouse stations of your body. You need to have about 2,000 of them in every cell in your body. If you have a chronic illness, you probably only have about 200 of them in your cells, but it only takes a few weeks to start replicating your mitochondria. And every time you replicate mitochondria, you create 4 extra molecules of energy. And literally, this is like, electric bolts of energy in your body. So from the first time you put the meal in your mouth, like when people come to our wellness center, they have a meal on the Friday night. And by Saturday, after we finish lunch, people are like, why am I so energized? What's going on? And it's because we actually started building mitochondria starting on the Friday night, that first meal.
Fantastic. I want to be mindful of time. It's 2 minutes to 12.
Yes.
Molly, can you share the sign up link is already done. We've got 30 people signed up that are committed to do this course. Now, Nicolette and Asma has a question too. So
yes,
hopefully
I'll
everybody
keep it
can
short.
stay.
I'll keep all my answers short from here on in.
And everybody can stay a little bit longer, but we start the course on the 13th of April. So today, a week from today. Yeah. People can sign up on that course. We will, as the linker, we're so committed to your health that we want to reimburse you the cost of the course. And Nicolette has given a major discount of half the price already of the course. It's only $300 Canadian dollars. And we will pay you that back after the 6 weeks, up to 10 people that we can sponsor that way. We do want to buy in from upfront, so that it's not, because it is a commitment and it does take time. So you pay for the 6 weeks. If you successfully completed that, we'll get you that back if finances are a problem. Nicolette also has ways of scholarships. Can you say a little bit more about that? And Asma, will come to you as the last question.
Yeah. So, and you get lifetime access to this course, plus you're going to get weekly group coaching as well. So we coach, and then if you can't attend the group coaching, no problem, because we put the replay into your course, so you can just go access it. And so you get lifetime access. Okay. And then we can support you. So if money is really, really very tight, which I get that it is for a lot of people with chronic illness, please write to us, and then we can discount the course even further for you. Because we really do want to be able to make sure. So, and then of course, if you can pay a little bit more, let us know too. And we'd be happy to do that, in that offset scholarships for other people as well. So let us know what works.
Perfect. And we will give everybody who participates in the course a copy of your book. Can we, how do we do that with the links? Because Sue is asking, will we receive the book before this class starts? That would be great, of course. And so is there an electronic link that you can share? And I will buy those books from you for the amount of people that participate on the linker site.
Okay, amazing. So why don't you and I chat about that? And we'll just figure out how to do that. The great thing is you'll get instant access on the 12th to the course, and the course is the book version. So it's just me talking for 18 hours versus you reading the book in a weekend. You can literally read the book in a weekend. It doesn't have as much information as the course, obviously. The book is a really good read. You can buy it on Amazon, but if you're going to be doing that B, then we'll make sure that a copy gets out to everybody. So we'll just need everybody's, we'll work that out, the details.
Perfect. And please send me an email if you haven't signed up yet, because I will import your email address in a MailChimp list. That is the way that I will send updates, and we will have extra Zoom calls, just drop-in calls if you have extra questions, if you have extra support, if you need like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. We're here together. We're going to do this together. I'm doing this. Tanya is doing it. Molly, like Stephanie, maybe a few of the Linker team will all do this together. So you're not alone, and we get it. It's challenging to make lifestyle changes, but to make them together, it's going to be a lot easier. So we're going to do extra Zoom drop-in calls, and that is the way that we're going to communicate. So send me an email, barbara@thealinker.com or b@thealinker.com. Poop@thealinker.com actually works. Fart@thealinker.com works, because I've got a catch-all account. So you can, whatever @thealinker.com, send me an email that, yes, you want to participate in the course. I'll add your email to the MailChimp list and you're on that list. Okay. Asma, your last, sorry, Nicolette.
Oh, and I was just going to say, there was a question that can you listen to the course? And yes, it's all on video. So it just takes you through the 6 weeks, and then all the videos play. So there's audio happening the whole entire time. And you can access it through your phone or through a desktop or an iPad. So it's all there. You'll have access to that for life. And then week 1 is, how to prepare the food. Week 2 is adding juicing. And so it allows you to get set up with that. Week 3 is, there's certain supplements that you can take for certain clients. So if anybody has any questions, I really encourage you to put the questions into the group chat, like once you get going in the course, because then we can answer those, because you don't have to rush out and buy any supplements if you don't have to. Like the plan is to get you off all medications and supplements, but there's 3 that everybody should be taking, which is vitamin D, vitamin B12, and magnesium if you need it. So that would be nice that everybody's pill cupboard goes down to 3 bottles. That would be the goal. And then week 4 is supporting your liver. And then week 5 and 6 is putting it all together. And so
there's something, there's something about the blood test that you require.
Everything.
How do we go about that?
Yeah. So it's really great is if you have any recent blood work for like over the last year, even if it's like 10 sets of blood work or 1 set of blood work, it's really good to send that to me as well, just so that we have that on file and we can track where you're at. And as well, send me the list of your chronic illnesses, because as you get going with this program, and one of the first coaching, because I'll be coaching you every week as well for 6 weeks, B and I will be doing that. And so there's certain things that we want to let you know of, because your blood pressure in the first week will come down. So you need to work with your doctor or whatever medical testing that you have at home, like your glucose monitoring, to make sure that you're reducing your meds as well at the same time, because your blood pressure will drop too low. Your insulin need will drop really fast. So you don't want to be taking too much insulin. So I walk you through how to do that. That's the power of medicine to heal. So we'll cover that on day 1. So yeah, once you sign up for the course, you'll start getting emails, and then you can just email all your lab results to me.
Perfect. Asma, you had a question. Unmute.
Yes, we're running out of time. So this was a great conversation. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to say that, yeah, I have osteoarthritis, and I go to Pakistan every year to visit my grandma and my mom. And every 2 months that I go to Pakistan, I don't have any diseases, because I'm eating dal, rice, and home cooked vegetables. And it's simple as that. And in every 2 months, it goes away. And then I come back and start eating on my own, and it starts again. So that's for sure. And food really is medicine. And what I'm curious about is that you're saying that we bake everything because baking is faster. You prefer baking as opposed to flying or cooking.
Yeah, we don't do any quick cooking on this. So, but the nice thing is, it is fast cooking because once you get it in the pots, you walk away and then cook it for half an hour to an hour. And then, but nothing flash fried. The minute you do that, all the nutrients blow up into your hood vent on your stove. So every time you have to clean the hood vent, you're really cleaning away a lot of good nutrients. So we want to keep everything in the pot. So the way we do that, and we don't like to add a lot of water to the cooking because the water draws the nutrients out. And then most people toss that water away. What we do is sweat the vegetables, which then means all the nutrients keep getting reabsorbed into the food. So when you go to eat it, then you're just eating you'll see the food is so tasty, and you're absorbing the nutrients, which is good.
Amazing. Thank you.
Alana has a question. If you need to leave, thank you for being here. We will just continue on as long as there's questions, not too long, but Alana will have another question. If you have to leave, that's okay. But
I just have a quick question. I signed up a while ago because I was so excited about having the opportunity to do this. So I guess I didn't scroll all the way down to read anything about a scholarship page or anything, or a scholarship or anything. But do y'all have a list of the people who have already signed up? And before, I mean,
yeah, so we do have people that are already signed up, which is great. I know B had many people show interest, and now that's time to sign up before we close it all down. And so we'll keep the card open until the 11th of April, and which is not a problem. We'll do that to make sure that you can get in, and any last minute signups can come in. And then for the scholarship, just send me an email. I'm going to put my email here. And if you could just write me a little letter and just, requesting that you'd like a scholarship and why, that would be really great. Just to, that's no problem. I understand that we have the ability to be flexible on this with you, because we do know that when people have chronic illness, it's challenging.
Okay,
And
I guess I asked the wrong question. Do you have a listing of those individuals who have already paid?
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay. That was the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do have a list. Yeah.
So do you want confirmation that you're registered, Alana?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Oh, is that what you're asking?
That's the question, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I see exactly what you mean. Let me just look on there right now.
And send an email to Nicolette, Alana, getting that confirmation.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. I don't know our system, so I have to get somebody else to look at it for me so that they can pull up. I see that there's a bunch of people registered, but I don't know how to access their names.
Yeah.
But my team does. They're really great.
One really important thing, money can never be the issue here to not attend the course. That's what we want between Alinker and Nicolette want to make clear. Money, lack of money can never be the reason not to do the course, because your health is more important. And so if you have money problems, then we can pay for you, make that possible. So I'm really looking forward to starting this course on the 13th of April. And I will send a link around for the Zoom call, or Nicolette will send a Zoom call to all the people that have registered. And I will send a newsletter to all the people that have emailed me and are on that list, how to get access to everything that we're going to do. Because Nicolette will have the once a week calls with us, and then Alinker will have additional drop-in calls if you need more feedback, suggestions, just want to fuck, this is hard, or wow, this is good, or whatever you want to share, just have drop-in Zoom calls once a week as well. So we're really doing this together.
Yeah, exactly. I put a couple more comments in there. You're going to get recipes. You're going to get sample meal plans, and the meal plans are easy because I don't I don't like giving meal plans that are like, go out and buy the ingredients for this recipe. What I do is teach you how to intuitively cook so that you are buying what's in season, what's affordable. And so you get more into the habit of like, I need 4 vegetables for a baked dish. I need 4 vegetables for the stovetop dish. So then you just are like intuitively able to shop. And I teach you all of that in the course as well as how to work with your produce managers as well to get items at lesser cost as well. So I teach you that. I teach you how to swallow supplements. I see there's a question there. There's a really good trick that I teach. And yes, some supplements can be in liquid form as well. And again, not everybody's going to have to take the supplements, but they really speed up the healing. And then protein. It's the number one question everybody asks. I love that you brought that up, Leah. Yes, you're going to get more than enough protein and not too much that it's toxic for the body, because anything over about 12% protein in your diet is actually starts to create disease. So I teach you all about protein in the course as well. It's the number one question. Where's the protein in all these vegetables? Romaine lettuce has protein, carrots have protein, potatoes have protein. It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can it be done in hospital?
Yeah, I just have a client in the hospital right now. And I've also worked with many clients at Children's Hospital, Women's Hospital, Lionsgate, and we just take over the kitchen. And it's been amazing because we have gone in and it took 18 hours to get one client off oxygen, their potassium and iron levels back up and hemoglobin numbers back up. 18 hours. And the doctor was like, this person's going to die here. They're never leaving. And I'm like, oh, what's the criteria then for them to be able to get unhooked from everything? And he gave me like really angry. But then he said, sure, take over the kitchen. And so we took over the kitchen. We got rid of the Diet Coke, the yogurt, and the popsicles and the milk that was in the fridge. And we filled it full of vegetables and fruits and grains yeah, it was amazing. And the nurses were helping feed the patient our food. Like it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now there's a whole thing, Nicolette, that we have not addressed yet, and we'll do that in the additional link or Zoom calls in between.
Yeah, exactly.
That your 22 million tour.
Oh yeah.
You're doing events. You're walking, running through whole North America in the next year, and we want to join.
Oh, yes.
But let's talk about that.
Whole North America. Well, technically, I guess I am crossing North America. So I'm going from Victoria, British Columbia, all the way to Newfoundland, BC. So it's 7,700 kilometers. And I'm going to be running and biking. I just did the BC tour. So I did from Victoria to Lake Louise and back last summer. And so next year, we're going to be doing that. And so I'd love for everyone to be super healthy to join me on any leg of that tour. Like you can join me for 5K, 10K, 100. You can join me for 3 months, whatever you love. But that's to work with, to really work with people across Canada to uncover the barriers to accessing clean, real food, because we have a real issue with accessing food in Canada.
Yes, absolutely. And in the US, obviously. And maybe the linker can organize some events in the US that we can do some distances together or events together. But that's all for next year. But we'll talk about that in the next coming weeks.
Exactly.
So sign up if you want to be part of it. Let us know if you need financial support. Send me an email to make sure you're on that MailChimp list, and the link to Nicolette's course.
Yeah, so it was just up there. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh,
yeah.
You do. Okay, great. And
I got it.
Again, if you sign up for this course, what's beautiful is that it is a 6-week course to get you set up and doing everything, but then you get access to me for as long as I'm living, because you'll also be part of a Facebook community as well. And so in that community, weekly group coaching, you can ask all the questions that you want. So as you're aging and different health things change, then, I'll be supporting you basically for the rest of your life by signing up for this course, which is really good. And then if anybody also, wants private consulting with me, I do offer that, but let's get you through the course first. And I'll be able to support you fully there with all the benefits of private coaching in a group coaching for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Wonderful. I'm looking forward. I'm super stoked about this whole thing. And thank you all for being here. And the recording will be shared in the newsletter with all the links before the 11th of April, when the last day of sign up is.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Eat well.
Thank you.
So much. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Emilia. Bye, Michelle. Bye, Cynthia.
There we go.
That was amazing.
That was good. Lots of good, really good questions.
Yeah. People are really committed, and they just want to know what they can believe, because they've got all those bullshit doctors telling them this and all that shit. So
I know
this is, I think, a really enormous breath of fresh air for many people that live with chronic. Leah Hinansky, for example, the one who's asked those more questions.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to a hospital. I don't have time to do this. I can't do this. And now she's like, I'm in, because this is simple stuff.
Yeah. No,
and
exactly.
even if it's just boiling potatoes in the first week, and after being boiled, cutting them and just eating them, and just cutting out all the bullshit, that will, right?
Oh, this alone is, and we're going to stress that in week 1, like we'll simplify the cooking down. I'll teach them everything that they're going to be doing, but we'll simplify the cooking down to like really the basics, but also help them get set up with support systems, because, you know, we did that for one client and she had 49 churchgoers show up. Like, she never went to church a day in her life. And she's like, I don't have a community who can help me. My family lives so far away. And I said, okay, well, is there like a community center? And she's like, well, there's a church across the street. So we designed a poster for her, put it up there. And she had all of these people coming and cooking with her so they would rotate. It was so awesome. She developed all these friends. So yeah, we'll get people set up. So, because it is about like, they need it. Like, some people really need that community system and support in the first couple months. But the beautiful thing is there's so many people out there who, like you said, they just don't want to be alone. So let's like figure out a way to match them up, which is going to be really important.
And doing those additional Zoom calls with a link like drop-in on Friday. If we do this on Wednesday, on Friday or Saturday or something, we have a drop-in. And you don't need to be there, but you can be there. So the course is sort of mandatory every week, but then in between, we'll just be there. Like,
great. And
you know.
And if I'm not able to make it on the Fridays, then what you can do is, if you just send me all the questions, like the chat role where people ask questions, then what I can do is just go make a video where I go, I'm going to answer Leah's question. And then I'll put that into their course so that the Q&A is in there for the group.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's really great. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this, Nicolette.
Me too. It's so fun. This is so, you have a really, and they ask such good questions. Like, they're all the positive crew. Like, this is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So excited.
Nice community.
Wonderful. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have
bye,
a great
V.
day.
You're doing such
bye,
good
Nicolette.
work. Okay. Bye.
You too. Bye.